more of like a brief talk, but I decided, since I'm Native and we tell stories, that I'd like to start with a story. While I've lived in Southwest Ontario for over 10 years, my family's from the States, and so much of this has begun in the U.S., right? Even before Charlottesville, I can't forget on the night of the U.S. election, my mom, who's from Wisconsin, at 3 o'clock in the morning, calling me here and telling me she thought she was going to vomit, and that she had just spoken to her younger sister, who was crying on the phone because of the environment that this is like now, south of the border. And my younger brother, who lives in New England, he likewise told me, and he lived in a district that voted heavily blue in their election, and he told me that the environment was so bad in his city, and he works as an electrician, that he thought that he was going to have to quit his job for his mental health. And this has only gotten worse since Charlottesville, and the fascists and the Nazis and the white supremacists said that they were going to march in Boston. My brother, who's one of the more peaceful, at ease people I know, he told me that it was so bad where he lives, he thought he was going to have to buy an AK-47 and a handgun because he felt so unsafe. So, this is the sort of environment we're working with now. But I want to also ask a rhetorical question. I was asked to come here and speak on the relationship between fascism and colonialism, because I think I would hope that most of us here recognize that Canada is fundamentally a colonial enterprise. And so what I think we have to understand from that and build from is, fundamentally at the core of Canada is anti-Indigenous violence and anti-Black violence. Those are the fundamental building blocks of what Canada is, what the United States is, what Australia is, what Israel is, everywhere settler colonialism around the world. And so, I ask people all the time, what does it mean if we're going to talk about fascist violence, which is a valid thing to talk about, if we're not also going to link it directly to colonial violence? What does it mean to talk to Indigenous people with the tragic plague of missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is a result of colonialism, and then to come and talk about fascism as if fascism is a new issue? What I like to think about is fascism is not like a new phenomenon. It's not something that emerges out of some sort of set of contradictions within capitalism, or however we want to talk about it. But fascism is colonial violence when it comes back to the imperialist heartland. And so, but in Canada though, the violence was already here. It doesn't even have to come back and visit. So this land right now, where we're talking about the emergence of these fascist movements and what to do about fascism, and no platform for fascism, and that's all great stuff, but this land is already soaked in Native blood and in the blood of Black folk, and that has to color the entire way we think about fascism. So I think that you can't really have a genuine sort of anti-fascism without there being anti-colonialism at the heart of it. Because we can push the fascists off our streets, we can give them no room to organize, no platform to spew their nonsense and their hate. But if we're not actually talking about these fundamental relationships in Canada, then we're not really getting at the heart of the issue. Because for us as Indigenous people, what we face every day is a set of relationships that drive us towards death. It's genocide. And so if we're just going to talk about fascism, in isolation from colonialism, then when you talk to Indigenous people, what you're asking us for is a choice between like a fast genocide under colonialism, under fascism, because I'm not going to deny that fascism is some sort of exceptional state of colonial violence. But the alternative, without talking about anti-colonialism, without talking about genuine decolonization, is to still ask us to accept our own genocide. And so I really want everybody to think about that and what that really means if we're going to organize against fascism. Is where in your program, if you have a 10-point program or you put out a newspaper, I see lots of folks selling newspapers here, where is decolonization in your platform? Where's real decolonization? Not just decolonization in words, and so I mean not just reconciliation, right? Because reconciliation doesn't really mean anything ultimately, because it still helps support these fundamental social relationships based on genocide and land dispossession. And I think that's the real thing. We have to start to think at some point about repatriation of Indigenous land. We have to start. We have to talk for real about reparations to African people here and around the world. And we have to talk for real about decolonization in Palestine as well. I don't really want to soak up a lot of time, but I was also asked just to talk briefly about what I thought allies could do to step up, was how it was put to me. So when I'm thinking of allies, mostly I'm thinking of our settler friends, family, comrades, and I think the most radical way that you can really step up is to work directly under the leadership of colonized people, because we know our own struggles and we know what we want, we know what we need, and we know how we want to do it. And so rather than to organize autonomously, but when you want to organize for decolonization, to work with us, go to our communities, go to our elders, talk to our people on the front lines at the barricades or wherever they might be, in the courts or something. It's ask them what you could do for them to directly aid them. And this also relates to a question of material solidarity. Che Guevara said that real solidarity is more than well wishes. It's about sharing the same fate, whether in life or death. And so this is why I say to work under the leadership of colonized people. It's one thing, and it is great if I hear people say, oh, I support decolonization, I support reparations to black people. But if you're not actually working for that, it's just words. And decolonization isn't a metaphor. It's not just something you can throw around and say. It's an actual process, and it's a process we have to live for and we have to fight for. And so it's about how you work, and it's about who you work with and those sort of relationships. And we should be building those relationships now. And that's the only way we're really going to be able to fight fascism. We're really going to be able to take the Nazis off our streets and really begin to undo these horrible, genocidal, anti-black, violent social relationships. And really, that's all I'm going to say. That's what I want everybody to think about. But thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me talk. And I hope I've given you something to think about while we're all gathered here today.